In the last video, we went through all the steps to create this section, but I'm just going to go ahead and make the section very quickly for this view. In this video, we're going to talk about how to combine this section with a Make 2D perspective. You'll recall we needed to set up a pair of views that each used the same reference plane for the camera, but one was a parallel projection and the second was a perspective projection. We're going to use both of those drawings to create the section perspective. So first things first, let's make the section. So I made that section using my right section ortho view, and now I want to change to my right section perspective view. And we can zoom in and out of this. I'm going to give myself, because I'm just making 2D, I'm going to give myself all of the space available to create the section. And I'm going to focus on the sectional space that exists within the building. I don't have a lot of space behind this clipping plane, and so I don't think the 2D perspective is going to look particularly deep. This might be one of those instances where having the two drawings could be very helpful, because I could simply flip that cut section and look the other direction, the deeper direction down into the building. But I've gotten about as close as I can where I can still get all of these elements, and I'm going to now make 2D, and we'll combine that with the section. And I'm going to keep it on the same view. So that looks great. You know, I'm having some of that sectional information. I've got these funny notes here, which I should get rid of before we make 2D. But now my job is to align those two drawings together. To show you also what I mean about that second drawing, if I just went to the other side of this section, it's sort of like reversing the section. That's the nice thing. The section is quite flat. And I could actually reverse my clipping plane here and have it look in the opposite direction before I move anything else around. Select the clipping plane, flip the direction, and now I've got a new opportunity to look to the interior space in a pretty exciting orientation. I'm going to go ahead and go back and recorrect my camera, though, so that it's still oriented toward that plane. And I'll call this left section. So I rotated the cut section so that it was lying flat on the world plan C-plane and was at the same level as my Make 2D. And now my job will be to align this section drawing with this perspective drawing. So before I make the final placement, I decided that I want to go ahead and see how it will look if I place some poché here. And so I've ungrouped this object, and I don't know how close I will get to having closed figures, but let's find out. I ungrouped everything, selected it, and now I'm just going to apply the planar surface command, and I got most of it. I was pretty happy with that. I can go by and select and take out some of these ISO curves. I'm also going to want to merge a couple of things into sort of more single conditions and not show those ISO curves. But really, I think this cut section is looking great. And when I move it back into place, you'll be able to see that it's going to cover up a lot of that extraneous information that we have. So I placed it over my Make 2D, and because they're in the same plane, everything is showing up. So my solution is going to be just to move this poché out ahead of those lines just the littlest bit. And also you can see that I've got this pretty weird effect of the poché casting shadows. I'm going to want to take that off because I want my representation of shade and shadow to not be just a graphic effect, but to really reflect what's happening with the building. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those off, and that'll be about the end of this drawing. So I went ahead and changed the paint color of those surfaces just so you could get a little bit more of the effect of the section perspective, and I think it's working pretty well. I can see that there's still a little bit of cleanup to do, but it's a pretty fast way to get a pretty dramatic effect once you practice it a little bit, including me practicing it a little bit, I'm going to get rid of some of these iso curves, or maybe even amplify some of those iso curves to show greater sort of recession of some of these surfaces, or the curvilinear quality. Yeah, but it's working pretty well. That's close to what we're going to be doing for this week's assignment.